Before casting this sculpture in bronze, Ebua Fred Iyama covers it with the red earth of Nigeria's Benin city. These Benin bronzes are made the same way Fred's ancestors crafted them more than 500 years ago. The artifacts have been in the news recently as calls grow louder to return the bronzes, which were looted and housed in museums across the Western world. While more and more of these bronzes are being returned, only about 40 artisans remain making new sculptures today. And they worry the craft won't survive much longer.
I don't think there is hope for the craftsmen in the next 30 years.
They say the problem is Nigeria's government will invest in the return of stolen Benin bronzes, but they're not investing enough in today's bronze casters. We went to Benin City to see how this craft is still standing, and if artists can keep it that way for much longer. To make a Benin bronze, Fred starts off by creating the core of the piece, a rough mold out of the red earth from Igun Street. This quarter was once bustling with craftsmen, but today it's left with only a few dozen. They make up the Royal Guild of Bronze Casters. Fred is one of these craftsmen, carrying on the legacy of his ancestors.
Our ancestors labored for it. They worked for it. Our ancestors took time and effort in doing it to keep our history and heritage. Now is our turn. We should try to preserve it for the younger generation to see, so that it will not die in our hand.
The core is made of red earth from the same area bronze craftsmen have used for centuries. This statue is Fred's interpretation of the various busts of Oba Esigi, or King Esigi, the ruler of the Benin Kingdom in the early 16th century. He'll craft the bronze with the same techniques the original craftsmen used.
I'm trying to soften the wax because there is no sun to make the wax. Since there is fire here, instead of we waiting for sun, we have to use this method.
When the wax is soft enough, Fred covers the core with it and turns his attention to the more intricate details of the art piece. He does this the traditional way, with a cow bone.
For the traditional people, they use this one, not spatula, or as we call it now. What I'm trying to do now is to make them to become one. That's the big bead that is in the upper snake. Is what I'm trying to form now.
The purpose of Benin bronzes has always been to record history, like a depiction of an important event or something as simple as a king's unique style of dress.
The Gun-like are historians. The Gun people, our ancestors, are historians. Not just telling the story, they molded everything. They mold each event. The only way they document it is by molding it.
Now that the details of the bust are complete, Fred covers it in layers of wet red earth. Some of Fred's earliest memories are playing with this red powdery soil.
Any new baby that is being given birth to, as he's growing, the red sand is always around him, and most of the red sand, while we begin from kids begin to fall in love with it, that's the craftsmanship. As you are playing with it, the spirit comes inside you.
As Fred is finishing up, he inserts at the base of the piece 2 bones, around which he forms an outlet where the melted wax will escape. Fred leaves the piece to dry overnight. The next day, Fred prepares the mold for firing.
We want to guide and bind the artwork before taking to the oven so that it won't destroy. To protect the work, we need to like tie with bandy wire.
Every part of the mold is covered except for the outlet. Now, Fred can put it in the fire. This is where the meticulous preparation pays off. The wax around the inner core melts off and escapes through the outlet, creating a space between the layers of hardened soil in the shape of oba esigi. This is called lost wax casting. For Fred, the ingenuity of the technique continues to inspire him.
Some of us, sometimes we take time to wonder, is it our ancestors that did this thing? But the reason why we are convinced is when we see ourselves doing it. But what wonders us about our ancestors is that what prompted that idea? What were they thinking that made them to come up with this thing?
Fred melts these odds and ends into liquid bronze. He pours the metal into the outlet, filling the space left vacant by the wax melting. The molten bronze cools down and takes shape.
See, we are done with the casting, and right now we're about to pull out every job that we have casted today.
Fred hacks away at the outer layers, each blow from the hammer revealing lustrous bronze underneath. When he's done, he hands it over to Sasa for filing and polishing.
I'm an expert in filing. I've been in this filing for more than 15 years.
Sasa learned this work from his brother. It's the only step in the process that is modernized. He uses rasps to scrape away at the leftover hardened sand. Sasa picks at every crevice, making sure not to damage the artwork.
What I like most about filing is carving. To carve it out, the designs, the face, and everything will look great.
Using a polishing machine, Sasa buffs the bronze to a perfect sheen.
This piece now tells us about Oba Esigi and his costume of his dressing.
The techniques Fred and Sasa use were developed as early as the 1200s. Back then, bronze casters were noblemen in the Kingdom of Benin, which predates the modern-day nations of Nigeria and Benin. Bronze casters could spend months working on a single piece. But 1897 was a turning point. The chiefs of Benin resisted British commercial involvement and staged an ambush on a trading expedition, killing British soldiers. In retaliation, the British pillaged the Oba's palace, stealing thousands of valuable pieces, including Benin bronzes. That February, the British captured the Kingdom of Benin, and the looted sculptures were auctioned off across Europe. As a result, museums in Benin City have very little to show for their history.
This is what has projected the Benin Kingdom to the outside world. Welcome to National Museum Benin. You can see them. They even have some in between their legs, behind them. All those are the objects, and these are all plaques. And he's having a fun of himself with his cigar in his mouth and looking at the photographer. So all these collections, most of them went to the world through the British Museum, and some of them are still there till date, and we wish they would send them back to where they belong.
Over a century later, public opinion started to change, with advocates calling to return looted artifacts back to their original homes.
Within that period of about 127 years, it was like we are in trauma. We were being disturbed because part of our history, part of our body had been taken out. But as it's now coming back, we believe that we are now full.
Nigeria has been requesting the return of these artworks since the 1970s. Its efforts began to pay off in October 2021, when the University of Cambridge became the first institution to return a Benin bronze to Nigeria. Since then, the United States has returned 30 bronzes, Germany 22, and the UK 8. But this is a drop in the bucket compared to the 5,000 bronzes stolen in 1897. Fred says bronze casters like him avoid going to the Museum of Benin because it forces them to confront this dark time in their history.
Anytime we come here, what comes to our mind is the invention, because there was so many bronze that were being stolen during the invasion by the British. Anytime we come to this place, it reminds us of what was stolen from the palace. And these are the reasons why normally we don't come to this museum.
But in the next few years, Fred will be able to see some of those stolen bronzes up close at the planned Edo Museum of West African Art. It will cost an estimated $100 million, with part of the funding coming from the state of Edo, where Benin City is located.
But looking at the return of these objects to Nigeria and maybe to Benin is a thing of joy to us. It's a thing that we know that can actually promote our culture the more and promote tourism in Africa, in Nigeria, and in Benin especially.
But with so much attention being given to the return of the historical bronzes and the tourism they may promote, Fred says today's craftsmen are being neglected.
The state of this nation is not helping the craftsmen, and the government, nobody is helping the craftsmen. Everything we are doing, we are just surviving.
Even though Igun Street has been recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site since 1999, its artisans are struggling to preserve the renowned craft.
Sometimes you're here in the news, this is what the UN or this World Heritage Center are trying to do to preserve the sculpture or the art or the craft. But none of them will come to the craftsman. For that, without the government involving, I don't think there is hope for the craftsmen in the next 30 years.
The original bronze casters weren't faced with these pressures. They were appointed into guilds by the Oba, who would provide them with materials like bronze. Benin City's craftsmen are looking for the same support today.
They are importing the goods. The bronze we are using, they are importing all. They decide the sales of bronze, not we. Once they said a kilo of bronze is 30,000 naira, how would the bronze caster continue? It will be hard for them to continue. But when the government takes charge, then the things will be easier for the craftsmen, because they will not be financing the material.
We reached out to several agencies within the Nigerian and Edo state governments, but did not receive a response. Fred's main customers are tourists and local art dealers. He says profits are not enough to sustain his workshop. He does most of his sales through middlemen.
We sell for like $300, $400 to a seller also. Then that one to go and sell to the end user can be $5,000, can be $2,000.
Fred recommends buyers source directly from the craftsmen until they receive financial support.
The place is an open place. Come direct, see for yourself. Know what they are writing or what they are telling people outside. You come to the source, you see for yourself, see what the craftsmen, what they are going through. That's the only thing I felt that will save this work.
Saving the craft from extinction is so personal for Fred because he comes from a line of bronze casters dating back to the 15th century. His family name, Iyama, is a title bestowed by the king.
Welcome, this is my house. Come, let me show you something. As you can see, this is my father. This picture is like 40-something years ago. Everything that I do now concerning this craft, I learned from my father.
This piece is one of Fred's greatest inspirations. He helped his father create this interpretation of a stolen original, which is held at the Princeton University Art Museum in New Jersey.
Something like this, that is so beautiful and unique. I feel very good, because I know in 100 years or 50 years to come, if this documentary is still retained as it is, my work will be remembered. But I feel good that I'm among they that are preserving the culture and the artwork for now, that of which the younger generation will see the works of my hand as I've seen my ancestors own. For that I feel very good and excited.